Our next amazing guest is Silvia Venturini Fendi. See, I brought my old Fendi. Okay. So Silvia is, as all of you know, because you're all fashion experts just like me, is the third generation of the Fendi family to work within the prestigious house. And over the years that you've been there, you have created some of the most iconic pieces that now really live in the Parthenon of style, iconic pieces that will stand the test of time. But she's not just an amazing, strong businesswoman, mother, grandmother, but she's also an inspiration to upcoming generations. And you're really out there talking about Italian craftsmanship and how to get that message out to the rest of the world. And you're also one of the sweetest persons I know working in fashion. So I wanted to talk to you first of all about the pressure of being in a family company, because did you feel even growing up that you didn't have a choice, that you had to go into the family business, or was this a choice that came from you, or did you want to go off and do something else, or was it always something you wanted to do?
Well, I think it was a very personal choice, but of course growing into such a family was quite normal for me to, I always say that I went to fashion college from the very beginning of my childhood. But I come from a very big family. And for instance, not all my sister or cousins did the same path. So probably I was the one that was always interested in what was happening in the atelier or in the headquarters, in the company headquarters. I remember very well that I was always there where the action was. If I go through also the archives, I see myself very little in a photo shoot that Karl made in 1967 when he did a collection that was based on the concept of unisex, no gender, where the mother, the father, and the little child were all dressed the same. And I was the little child in the shoot. And then, of course, after I asked to keep those clothes, and so I was dressed up in a very, let's say, different way from my classmates or my friends. So I was kind of special already at that time. So probably I looking back, I can see that I was also not interested in what was happening at school, for instance, or I was always ready just to go and see my mother while she was working. And if I knew that Karl Lagerfeld was coming from Paris to Rome to work, I would find every excuse to go and see what he was doing. And because I felt the excitement, I felt the energy that was, I felt that something important was happening there, not just clothes. I also remember that I used to attend fashion shows, of course, but I always asked the permission to be backstage because I liked mostly what was behind the scenes. So probably, looking at all those facts, I can say that I decided what I wanted to be very early. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard this story that you didn't play with dolls. You actually like to play with the fabric and work in the atelier, that you weren't interested in playing with dolls at home, but you wanted to hang out with all the fabrics in the atelier and with the craftsmen.
No, when you can play with real clothes, of course, you don't want to play with dolls. I had possibility of, I remember I used also to like very much to play with clothes and with bags. There was a special room in the Fendi, in the Roman boutique, where they had only evening bags. And it was quiet and it was very private, so I could open all the cupboard and watch all the styles that were incredibly beautiful. And they were just, there was a selection made on colors, or all the blacks, evening silks and beadings, or beige or whites. And so I remember that I was opening and just watching what they had sold because I knew all of them, and nothing could escape to. I was always there.
You were the hawk eye, always keeping a track.
Probably I already had something for the bags because then after when I did the baguette, which was heavily embroidered, I think I was really strongly inspired by that dark gray velvet room, which was exquisite.
So you are the creative director of Fendi, and I wanted to know what you're seeing as the biggest challenges for the Fendi brand going forward, and what are you setting as goals for the Fendi brand and for yourself personally? Where do you want to take the house?
Well, we are a company that has 90 years of history behind. So my grandparents founded in 1925. What is important is to keep traditions, to keep an eye to our past, but also look to the future, to be relevant after all those years. This is what interests me, and so to project Fendi into new dimensions. I think that if you think that in 1965 my mother and her sisters, they start working with Karl Lagerfeld, who is someone who is really into future. I learned a lot, and Fendi also, because he's part of Fendi, of course. That we like to really look at what we didn't do more than what we did. So always new challenges. So I would say that we are an historical, traditional company, but very more modern and very contemporary in our heart, almost experimental, I would say.
I would absolutely agree that you're one of the most experimental houses out there that has such a huge tradition. So you mentioned Karl a couple of times. So I know that recently you had the Fendi Couture Fur collection in Paris to celebrate his 50 years at the house. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you've known Karl all your life. So he creates the ready-to-wear and the bags for the women's. What is it like working with him? I mean, how do you guys have a shorthand? Tell us a little bit about what the inside track with Karl.
Well, every time that I see him, it's a little bit like the first time. What is important is to always, we never think, with him, you never think, well, we have done this, we achieved something. It's always a new starting. He gets bored very easily.
He gets
bored very easily.
He gets bored very easily. Okay.
You have to present him and to work on things with a very fresh eye every time. That's something that really I learned from him. And then, of course, there is a very deep and strong relationship. We don't need to talk so much. I know what he expects from us. He lives in Paris. We are in Rome. We are based in Rome. So he comes and goes. And when he comes, he leaves his sketches and his ideas, and we do research, and he comes, and every time I like to watch his reactions and feel if we could surprise him once again and once more. This is something that I like so much, because every time he thinks, and I can see in his eyes that we kept the standards he's used to.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about his creative process, that he comes and he brings in the drawings, and then you go and the atelier goes and tries to bring those to life and then surprise him with their creations. What about your creative process? How do you come up with these iconic bags, these iconic designs over and over and over again?
Well,
what's your secret?
That's not a secret. There's no recipe. If there was, I wouldn't tell.
Wouldn't share us anyway. Okay.
Because there is a very strong competition on accessories, as you know. Well, I think that what I think is important is to come out with the right thing in the right moment. And that's what happened with the baguettes or with peekaboos or with other bags. I always try to avoid to look at what's on the market and what the others are doing. Maybe because, we are based in Rome, which is a little bit outside of the fashion world, so this is also something that helps a lot when your friends are not always fashion people. And I really basically think that another little secret could be that you are never satisfied. this is something that unfortunately most of the creative people are. You know, you always feel that you're missing something, and so and you try to give you answers. Being a woman, for me, it's also quite easy to come up with bags that reflect the moment and the need of the moment. For instance, the baguette was something so special and so different from what was happening around in the accessories, because it was a time of the minimalism where everybody, especially in fashion, they were dressed in black with black nylon backpack. And so I really thought it was time to really try to get out from the crowd, fashion crowd, and try to do something that was not there. So the baguette was the first bag that was treated like a garment and was not minimal at all. Really, it was, I would say, kind of a manifesto of individuality, because it was a bag that was always the same but always very different. And then after that, the baguette was such a huge success that really everybody started to go into accessories, and everybody, also designers that were not into accessories, started to work on that. And you saw fashion shows with a lot of sometimes beautiful things, sometimes no. So after that, I really thought that it was time to go back to the roots and to start treating again bags with skills that only leather good makers could use. And so that's why I came up with a peekaboo, which is a classic bag, more conventional in a way, more timeless, but always with a special surprise, because we, you know, at Fendi we always like to hide a little surprise if it's inside of a bag or inside of a coat. And so the peekaboo came as a reaction to the baguette in a way. So, you know, somebody could think, oh, well, I did a baguette, I can rest. Well, that's the secret, never rest.
Never rest. Okay. Well, then, how do you know then when, I've always been curious when a designer, did you know that the baguette was going to be, I mean, did you know this is it, I've got it, or with the peekaboo that I've got it? I mean, granted, later you would see the success of it, but when did you go, okay, that's it, stop, we've got what we need? Does something click? How do you get to that moment?
Well, yes, I felt that it was something that I would like to have and to wear. But then, you know, sometimes happened also with other bags that I felt, I was sure that something was really new, and maybe the market was not ready to perceive it. So that's why I say you have to come out with the right thing in the right moment. It happened to me that I was so sure about something, and then nobody thought it was so relevant. But when I like something, I keep on proposing it. If I feel really that this is something new, that is something that is needed, that is something that really represents Fendi, and, well, you know, in a way, maybe I rework on that idea and I keep on, you know. I never give up.
Well, you're kind of talking about it. I mean, I wouldn't call those mistakes particularly. I mean, you're saying that it didn't resonate with the rest of the world, but could you talk, because I asked this of Christian as well, could you talk about maybe some misstep or mistake that you made during your career that you really learned from and grew from as a designer?
Well, for instance, when I started doing the menswear, I had, at the beginning was very directional, and maybe I had to really improve the project. So I had the courage to stop doing fashion shows, because I was too much concentrated on the fashion shows and not on the concept of the men's wardrobe and on the construction of the garments. So for quite, I would say at least 4 or 5 seasons, I decided not to do a fashion show and just to concentrate on the project. And then I went back, and now today is a huge success. Men's is doing really, really well. So, you know, it's important also to slow down, to think what I might, to work on the project without the pressure of the judgment of the fashion shows and just working with the help of people and with the advice of buyers, for instance, and just not thinking about being directional and relevant just for fashion.
Would you say that men in general, your experience is that what I loved about those presentations that you did is that you could come in and get close and really see the workmanship and the fabrics that you're using and the blending from one fabric to another. Would you say that particularly worked well for menswear because men are so oriented towards the textiles, or just because you thought it was a better way to present?
I think that because, Fendi didn't start as a men's company, and so I think that if you want to really work on your DNA, what people could find on Fendi menswear, it's very related to the quality of the workmanship and to the textile. So people really had to perceive it, touching it and watching it. Sometimes the inside is more interesting than the outside, especially for men, which are obsessed by detailings. And so I thought that giving the possibilities to people and to buyers and to journalists to touch it and to verify with a closer look the garments was very important. And the show didn't give these possibilities. Sometimes also with our fur coats, for instance, we like to fake people. You think something is velvet, in reality it's sheared mink or things like that. So at Fendi it's very important that's why we always try we always do a re-see day after, because you have to touch and discover what it is. And during the fashion show, very often you cannot perceive it.
That's very true. We've spoken in the past about the lack of, or the need for more artisans, because finding new people to replace those that are retiring, and that this is a big problem within the fashion industry. I'm wondering if that issue, which I know is dear to your heart, was one of the reasons why you decided to take up the presidency for Altaroma and to really focus on that.
Yeah, I think that I know that you don't achieve anything just by yourself. I always think that a designer is like a orchestra director, and then you have to have someone who plays pianos, violin, and all the instruments. And these are the artisans, and these are the people that works like the pattern maker or like the premiere, people that are so important to translate what you have in your mind. Unfortunately, lately, young people perceive these kind of works like secondary work, Sometimes maybe fashion didn't give too much importance to the backstage and to what's behind an object or a garment. Altaroma, which I decided to accept the presidency 6 years ago, it's a company who supports craftsmanship, the Italian human touch, let's say, and young people. What I really think it's important is to connect young designers also with old masters, for instance. Also at Fendi, we have people that are working in our atelier from a very, very long time, but we are attracting many young that wants to start. We just opened a foundation for that, where we do masters for really prepare young people to become, the best pattern maker, which can have a great career, because these are works that are amazing. You can have amazing jobs, really.
Yeah, it makes a big difference if you have a good or a bad pattern maker, for sure.
That's
night and day.
Yeah, you can tell that having a very good pattern maker is it's to translate your sketches. It's so important, especially when you want to be experimental, and you have to, we have having someone that says, yes, I try, nothing is impossible, which is our motto, I would say. Well, that's the base to do something that is different from what is on the market.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about here in Dubai, and you've got Altaroma, and you're working with Vogue, Who's On Next, and it's been a while that these are both been going on now. How have you seen the fashion landscape change since Altaroma started, or Who's On Next with Franca? What have you seen how it's shifted?
Well, we start to work with Vogue on the contest Who's On Next 12 years ago already in Italy. So first of all, I'm so happy to see that Who's On Next is traveling, and so to see today that Who's On Next is here in Dubai, it's really important because it's a contest that in Italy did very well and is doing very well. It's one of the most relevant contests, not only for Italian designers but international designers. There is a big list of young designers that went through this contest and that today are not just the promise, but they are the reality of the Italian fashion, or they have huge success. There is, if I think about Marco De Vincenzo, for instance.
About what I was just about to say.
Yeah, I think of MSGM. And I think of so many, but not only for ready-to-wear, but also for accessories. There are many that have been starting through this Who's On Next contest. To see it today here, I feel very proud of what we have been doing for 12 years now. And today we saw 25 young designers, which were very interesting and very strong and very different one from the other, with very personal voices, and which I think is very good.
Well, if you were to speak to these young designers, because we were talking with Mina about this, that there are only a few winners and they're 25,
Yeah.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the end of their story. But what would you give them as an advice, or the next step that they should take, or yes, where would you push them? Where would you suggest that they do now after this experience?
Well, I think that's the moment where they have to really push and push in creativity, but also, of course, they have to, it's very intense. The moment is very delicate because, there's a kind of a light that goes on you, and you have to really work 24 hours in a way, because the competition is very big. So it's a delicate moment where you start, but it's very delicate when you start and you have to make the jump into becoming really relevant. So, which means not only creativity, but also being a designer and being a manager of your line, also of your company, which is, you have to be very complete in a way, because it's not just related to creativity. You have to ship on time, you have to have the good pricing. So it's like really 36 hours a day of work.
36 hours a day, okay. Let's go back to Fendi a little bit. One of the things that I love, and I imagine many other people in the industry love about Fendi, is that it really doesn't sit on its laurels. It keeps looking forward. You have these amazing traditions, and yet you're coming up with these, using amazing new technology, bonding, etc. How do you bring those two together in a way that's organic to the brand? How are you able to do that?
Well, maybe because we deal with furs, which has been the first human garment, so it's the most historical material. So we have probably a reaction that we want really to experiment with that. I would say that Fendi really did quite a revolution in this area, because if you think already into in the 70s, Fendi was the first to really start experimenting and treating furs like a fabric. And today, you don't need to be a furrier but every designer has fur in the shows, so it's really considered like a normal fabric. So maybe because of this material, which is so organic and so old, we like to mix it with the most incredible techniques and to really, I would say, change the reality of the material. This is something that has been bringing us into really using incredible techniques. We were, I think, the first to start dyeing furs, printing furs, shaving. You know, if you can imagine how it happened, the shaving techniques came one day. Karl arrived, and from the airplane, he made a photo of a field. This field, he said, I would like a fur that could be harvested in a way. And so when he came back, he found that the fur were shaved by hand, and that's how it became a technique that everybody is using now. So, you know, really, as I said before, we like to use our hands a lot. This is something that probably also is very related to the Roman history. You know, Romans were really, if you think that in Rome you have a street for every technique, you know, the street just for people that were making chairs, a street just for people that were making baskets. So there is this manuality, this human work that is very, very much into our DNA. And so we are there experimenting every day on new techniques.
We love it, watching those experimentations come to life on the runway, I have to say. What about, in your opinion, makes a fashion brand its best? What is the one thing that it needs? Does it need to be forward-thinking? Does it need to be authentic? What is that secret to success for a brand to have such a longevity as yours?
Well, I think the secret is that you have to be to keep your DNA, to be yourself, not to watch too much to the competitors, and you have really to be true to yourself, to your roots, but also not to try to move on trends that don't belong to you, for instance. You know, and sometimes you see things that you don't expect from a brand. Well, today I would say that it's a very, very good moment for Fendi. We have a strong momentum, but you know, for instance, we are having this strong momentum with all these fun parts of our accessories, like the monsters hanging up. And this is something that is very true to Fendi. If you think that the double F that Karl sketched in the 70s were meant to be fun fur. So this sense of fun was always there, you know.
So the double F was actually supposed to be an abbreviation for fun fur.
Yes.
Okay, and became the logo for Fendi.
And this explains why we are so, in a way, light-hearted. In this moment, we have this enormous success with the Fendi bags, you know, with the little monsters made of fur. But it's something that has a reason, that is true to our brand.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about social media and how that's affected what Fendi is doing. I remember that you had drones flying over a fashion shoot one time. There are a lot of brands now that are creating great spectacles of shows, basically, because they'll be better for Instagram. How is Fendi addressing this new aspect of the fashion world?
Well, I think that since we look at the future, we cannot avoid to be interested in technology. So we were the first to use a drone during a fashion show, which was amazing because today fashion shows are live and they go streaming, and so people could really see and perceive the dimension of the space and see it like really they were there. Of course, I think that social media are very important because before you would expect only the judgment after a show from the people that are the fashion crowd, so the press. Today you have the reaction, the immediate reaction also from the public, from your customers, and so this can put you a lot more pressure, but it's also a tool interesting tool to understand if people like something or not. Of course, this makes the timing of fashion faster and faster because people, I'm sure, very, very soon will want to buy immediately after the show what they saw in the catwalks. So, for instance, but you start receiving phone calls and they start going in the stores asking for a product that was on the catwalk the day before. So this is something that is making timing faster and faster. So it's something that we will be obliged to deal with one day, I think.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, that's one of we have some brands, I'm thinking of Moschino and a couple of other Versus or what have you, where the day after the show, some of the products are in the stores. How are Fendi planning on doing something like that?
Well, after our last show, where we launched the strap U, which is the shoulder strap that you can buy separately from the bag.
That was a great idea.
We had gave the possibilities in Milan and in Paris to buy it immediately, and it was sold out the day after, I think. Of course, the fashion show has such a resonance that immediately you get the results, But this is something that it's going to be more and more probably. So you have to have an organization that can do that, which is not easy.
So you're the third generation, but I know for a fact that your daughter, you work with your daughter, who is an amazing jewelry designer, Delfina, in her own right. What is it like working with your daughter on the collections? How does that feel?
Well, I feel so proud because I can feel that she went through the same experience, being raised in a family. It's like transmitting something. It's kind of it's an heritage which it's really into the DNA. Well, she has been collaborating with us for 2 shows and doing the fashion jewelry. But she has been always around, I would say, exactly as I was when I was a young girl. And it's nice to have this interaction with people that you know so well, because they can be very sincere with you. It happened to me that she was coming and saying, "Oh, but what are you doing? I don't like this." Well, not so many people have the courage and possibility of being so direct with you. She's a very good, how you say,
Critic?
Critic, yes. So sometimes I make tests with her. She has a very great sense of style and good taste, so it's nice to work together, yes.
And is that trickling down all the way to Emma? Will we have the 5th generation? Do you see her playing with the different materials as well? Does she see that's the love of Fendi's coming down?
Well, I don't know this, but I can tell you that for sure she has a very strong personality. She knows what she wants, and she has her sense of style already, even if she's just 8 years old. So probably it's something that is really into our blood. She says that she wants to become a jewelry maker and she wants to work with her mother, but who can? I will tell you very soon, probably.
Thank you so much for speaking to me today. I'm going to open up now the interview to questions in the audience. Does anybody have a question for Silvia Fendi here about her brand or what? Yes, please.
Hello,
Hello,
it's
hi.
not actually a question. My name is Arthur and I also participate in Altaroma. That's how I met Silvia Fendi. I just want to say that from a designer's point of view, it feels so good to hear your words because it's so natural and humble and really so well thought through. So being here and listening to your advice is very special, and thank you so much for your support over the last few years.
Yes, because I just want to, I don't know if all of you know this, but, you know, on the down low, Silvia's been working with a lot of younger designers. Marco Di Vincenzo, whose most recent collection was probably arguably one of the strongest of his collections, and I would say personally, I think one of the strongest of Milan Fashion Week. How does that feel to you to see all of this work coming forward and seeing these designers that you had a hand in helping?
Well, I feel that it's amazing what's happening because I would say that the most relevant designer, some of the most relevant designers have been working at Fendi during the very beginning. You know, there is a big list. I want to mention Pierpaolo Piccioli, Marigrazia Curie. They've been
course.
working at Fendi for
The
quite a
designers
long
who are
time.
now running
you know.
Valentino.
Yeah, or Alessandro Michele also.
course.
So it's which is so relevant at the moment and is doing amazingly well at Gucci. So it's I'm very proud. I feel very proud because they're all you know, and they are still so much close. We are still so much close, and it's I feel like a mother sometimes. You know,
One big
as I-
Italian family.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk just a little bit about that. You see all of these designers who are coming out and launching their own brand right away. Do you think it's important that designers pay their dues, that they go and maybe work for a house and learn about the industry before launching their brand, or can you learn it on the go, you know?
Well, I don't think there is a rule for that, you know. But of course, I think that it's very important from my point of view. I didn't attend a fashion college, and so I was just looking and grabbing everything. I think that the best thing would be mixing the two things together. So because you have to have very quickly and a total vision of a company. So it's very good to, if you're going to do stages, not just to do stages into, even if you are a creative person, not just into the creative department or in the studio. I think it would be interesting to watch how the machine goes and work, because you know, at the very beginning you are very lonely because you cannot afford to have people that do and work with you. You know, sometimes you have to think about the collection, sell it, and shipping and doing the boxes by yourself. So it's very important to really watch all the aspects. Today you have to be ready to be very good with numbers and to be also relevant with creativity. So yes, I would suggest to, before starting a company, to really try to have opportunities in all the different aspects.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, here in the middle, this woman in the white jacket.
Hi, I'm Zoe Van Cleef, personal stylist and personal shopper.
Can you talk a little bit louder? Thank you.
I would like to know, why is always Mr. Lagerfeld related to Fendi?
Well,
why is from the beginning is always Mr. Lagerfeld there?
I think that the relationship between us and Karl is the longest relationship in this in the fashion world. This year is going to be 50 years of work together. Well, you know, the answer is very easy. Fendi is a story of women and a man. He is part of Fendi, and I think Fendi is part of what he is. So we are, you know, I don't see Fendi without Karl, and it's very simple.
Another question? The gentleman in the back?
Hi, my name is Francesco. I'm from Italy, and I'm a jewelry designer. My question is, you said a while ago that you come out with the right thing at the right time. right? But at the same time, you said, but you don't look other competitors what they do. So how do you decide what is the right thing at the right time?
Well, it's not. Sometimes it's not you that decide. You have to have also a little bit of luck. You feel that you have needs, of course, and you feel that that's the right moment. But also in this work, it's also a little bit of luck that is important. Because sometimes, as I told before, I felt that an object, that a bag or something, a garment was very relevant, and then it didn't happen. So there are many factors that helps making a success. Sometimes also some negative factors. For instance, for the baguette, we were not ready to such a big success, and so we started with waiting list because everything was handmade. And the waiting list became like something that made it stronger and stronger. It became a marketing tool. So a negative
You turned into a positive.
point became a point of strength because the lack of something on the market made it so desirable. And so, it's an alchemy that you can do something fantastic, but sometimes the alchemy is not there, so you struggle. But you have to keep on. If you think that you have the great idea, if you don't never have to give up.
Yes, any other questions here in the front? This beautiful young woman in the front.
Thank you. Good evening. It's more of a personal question. I wanted to ask you, what were the challenges you faced at the beginning of your career as a designer? And what will you advise those emerging designers facing those same challenges? Thank you.
Well, my career was different probably from, let's say, normal designer, because I was coming from a family, so I was the daughter of, which was easy from a point of view, but it was also difficult for me because everybody was thinking, well, is she really the one who's making things? Is she really talented? Because, when you belong to a family, they look at you and they think that probably you are there just because you are part of the brand. So for me, I felt this like a challenge. So I really wanted to show that I could bring something and that I was really good in this. And Fendi then in the 2000 sold the company to LVMH Group. And so today finally I'm free from this because I'm there just because I am a designer and not just because I have this name. So, all of us, we have our problems and we have our, you have to face difficulties in a way. My advice is that this work is very tough. As I said before, there's a strong competition, and the advice is that you have to strengthen yourself and to be 100% committed. I don't think there's another advice that I could give. Sometimes you find that it's hard because it's not so easy to be noticed and to make it. But if you really feel, I think that challenges, difficulties are what makes this work so important and so fascinating, because if it was easy, I don't think that so many people would love to be a fashion designer. Today there is, of course, a big competition, but I really think that you have to be very strong, and what I think is that you have to have a very big knowledge and not just be a creative person, which is not enough now.
Any more questions for Silvia Fendi? Here in the back, the woman in the hat? Or, yes, ladies first.
Hi, it's elegantly my pleasure to meet you. What the secrets of Fendi family affair, from small boutique to this luxurious, prestigious, famous powerhouse?
I'm sorry, can you, we're having a hard time hearing you.
What's the secrets of family Fendi affair, from small boutique to this luxurious, famous, prestigious powerhouse?
I guess again the secret to success. How do you start from something so small and become something so prestigious?
Well, you know, it was not made in one night. It was
Over time.
We started 90 years ago. It was a very small company, and the secret is just working very hard. There are no other secrets, you know. I've been witnessing the hard work that all the women in my family did, especially in those times, my grandmother, but also my mother and her sisters, you know, being women and working in a world of men mainly was very difficult and was very, it was a very big commitment. But, so the secret is just
Never give
there,
up. Yeah.
never give up,
Yeah.
and it's,
È vero.
yeah.
Yes, you had a question.
Hi, what was the story behind the Fendi Monster and Carlito? Like they became like a huge cult.
Well, you
Good
know,
question.
everything started very. Carlito was just a little present that I did for Carl. And so the night before the show, I gave him this little Carlito. No, and the name was not Carlito. And I said, "Oh, Carl, I made this for you." It was a joke, basically. You know, the night before the show, we relax and, you know, everything is done, more or less. So before going sleeping for a few hours, because we like to work at night, I gave him this little doll. And he said, "Oh, that's me." I said, "Yes, that's you. What's the name? How would you call it?" And he said, "Carlito," because at Fendi, in the family, we used to call Carlito. "Oh, it's a Carlito for you." And then the day in the morning, Carl had this idea to give it to Cara,
Cara.
and she went out with this Carlito, and so everything happened. But really, basically, it was we were not ready. Again, it was something very genuine and very. It was just a little present for him. You know, his birthday is always around the fashion show, so it was. That's why. And the little monsters, as I said before, there's always been this. They came out. We were working on a collection that was really based on the concept of fanfare, which was this concept that Karl did in the 70s. And I remember that I wanted to play with the fur, and you know the girls were wearing mohawk in colored fur, and I was previously traveling to Brazil, and I was very much affected by colors and by a friend of mine who she has a very big collection of araras, how you call them, parrots. And so, you know, it came like this. We started to do little birds in fur in the studio, joking and making.
So
yes,
the
these
little monsters were based on
monsters.
furs, on parrots,
Yes.
fur parrots.
Everything started in Brazil, really, during
Well, thank you to
Christmas
Brazil.
holidays.
One last question. Yes, in the front.
Hello, I'm really glad I came and met you. I'm a fashion designer from Uganda, and I work with a group of young fashion designers who are very talented. How do we get a chance to benefit from such an opportunity like working with amazing people like you?
How do you, as a designer, get an opportunity to work with Silvia Fendi?
Yeah, who supports young designers from, say, Italy, and for us, we are from Uganda. I work with a group of young designers who are talented and ambitious and would love such opportunities, but we don't know how to plug into them.
Well, I'm just going to answer from my experience is that as soon as we get off the stage, grab her. You have to take your opportunities when you can get them. I mean, how often are you and Silvia Fendi going to be in the same room? Probably, hopefully more than today, but at least today, get in touch with her. I would also recommend harassing people in a very nice way. Just keep sending the emails over and over again, and an email with a great subject line that makes them want to open it. It's a really good trick as well, just coming from somebody who asks for interviews with people like Silvia Fendi, and they don't always get back to you. So you want to try and really do that. But Silvia, what would your suggestions be?
Well, yes, you know, it's like being there at the right moment helps. And, well, you know, maybe after you can give me your email and I can see you can send me your work, and why not?
And then just, again, a technical point, Instagram now, if you're following somebody and they like your work and they follow you back, you can actually direct message through Instagram now like you can do with other platforms. And that's another great way of connecting in this digital age when we're all close and connected and yet sometimes very far away, geologically speaking, locally. So that's another way. So Silvia can follow you and you can follow Silvia, and then you guys can chat as well. On that positive note, I think we're going to end this 3 hours of Fashion Extravaganza Marathon. I thank you all for coming. I thank you all for coming, and have a wonderful day.